Okay, so Community Media Solutions is a UK-based NGO supporting community media development. We're engaged in support for media reform that can open up the policy, legal and regulatory environment for civil society voices, and we're providing direct technical support and assistance to community media initiatives, associative media initiatives on the ground, including assisting with technical advice, training, equipment and so on.
Okay, so can you give us some examples of actions already have in this support for community media?
Yes, in this region we're working in partnership with a similar organisation in Jordan called Community Media Network, and together we have established a regional initiative called Aswatana. Aswatana means our voices in Arabic, and the Aswatana network is now across 10 countries where there are community radio initiatives being supported in both the Maghreb and the Mashreq. These include FM radios but also internet radio stations. But it's not only about supporting individual radio stations but helping them also to exchange and to network and to share programs and to make pressure for improving the enabling environment, the legal and the regulatory environment for broadcasting. We had a conference of the network only last month in Cairo with 100 participants from 10 countries with some very inspiring stories about new civil society media initiatives that they're engaged in, and we've had an opportunity there for sharing experiences and exchange and training and so on. This is very much a dynamic network now. It's a network that started off with small beginnings, just a small number of different radios, but it's now beginning to feel more like a social movement. It's a network of grassroots communicators. Every one of these radios has many people involved. In each country they're beginning to group together and form national associations like the Syndicat Tunisien des Radios Libres here in Tunisia, but also in other countries there are similar initiatives now that are emergent. So we're supporting that development. It's a very dynamic development for community media, not only in this region, but because of its impact on the community media movement in the world.
Okay. So do you have any kind of exchange between those experiences you are having with the other community radios network in West Africa, like GCRN or URAC in Senegal?
Well, of course. I mean, there is a lot more. There are many more years of community radio and community media experience in other parts of the world. It's really very new in this part of the world. These are really the first initiatives that have begun mainly since the Arab Spring 2 years ago. There are some projects that started a little bit earlier on the internet, but it's really a very new movement. So of course they want to learn from the experience elsewhere. When I speak about experiences in other parts of the world, I often reflect on the West African experience in particular, because in West Africa after independence there was a period, a very positive period, and then there was a period of stasis, of inertia, and things got somehow blocked. And then in so many countries there was a revolutionary moment or a transitional moment of change which brought forward a more democratic environment. This happened in Mali, it happened in Benin, it's happened in Ghana and so on. And it was at that moment of change, which is 20 years ago, West African Spring, if you like, which was also the moment where community broadcasting began to emerge for the first time in West Africa. And that history, I think, is very inspirational for people here. There are many similarities, but there also, of course, there are big differences, cultural differences, differences in terms of the historical context. But I think there's a lot to be learned, particularly from the West African experience, but also from community radios worldwide. We have rich experiences in Latin America, in Asia, in Europe that are also of interest to people here. But what is particularly of interest for people here, when people ask me, how can we understand the situation we're in and how can we best contribute to the process of a democratic transition, I always try to look at other countries that have gone through a recent process of democratic transition. And we can look at Eastern Europe, we can look at Latin America, the fall of the dictatorships, the end of the Cold War in Eastern Europe. But to my mind, the West African experience has more similarities to the processes of the Arab Spring, perhaps, than any of those.
last question. Do you have any specific workshop during the World Social Fair?
There's a number of different workshops going on, which we're assisting and supporting. We're supporting the event as a whole by bringing people here. We're helping to bring around about 20 delegates from 10 different countries across the region. So there's good regional participation here, and we're also running some workshops that are very technical. Practical technical stuff, how to actually make a radio transmitter, how to make an antenna, how to make an internet transmission, this sort of thing. Very straightforward, but very practical tools that can enable people to take a step forward.